Well, hello and welcome to a final time this week, this time around for the review and live reaction of last week's and this week's chapter of Boku no Hero Academia 129 and 130 of their names, Eri and Listen to the Real Truth. Let us begin then with the review of last week's chapter because, as I said, I've already read and recorded a live reaction for this chapter. However, I was not confident and I did not like the result of that video. Therefore, I decided not to release it. Well, not that these videos have a lot of quality anyway, but I do have some standards, you know. I can't just release anything willy-nilly. I do try my best to at least sound somewhat cohesive and professional, sort of, though their technical quality is still much left. It still has a lot to go on. My performance can stay up to a certain level, and that video was not meeting those standards. But fear not, I do not remember that much of the chapter, but I do remember that it revolves around one single event, which is the one we saw at the end of chapter 128, which was Midoriya coming face to face with none other than OverHaul himself. That's right. If you remember correctly, in chapter 128, Midoriya came face to face with OverHaul, and the chapter revolved around that. Before we have some talk between Midoriya and Mirio when they are discussing certain things like experience, their hero names. We learn Mirio's hero name, which is Lemillion, which apparently means not quite this. I mean, it means that he wants to save 1,000,000 people. He wants to be able to save 1,000,000 people. It's a cool name, Lemillion. It's a very cool name. But back to the present, back to when Midoriya faces the leader of the 8 Precepts of Death, Shisaki, aka OverHaul. And we learn a little bit more about this girl. Apparently he calls her his daughter, thinking he can fool anyone, but he ain't fooling no one. Mirio tries to sort of, how shall I put it? He tries to control Midoriya because he knows how Midoriya is, and that Midoriya will fall sort of to the girl, and he will feel attached to the girl, and he will try to know more, but he'll end up upsetting OverHaul. So they do some small talk, but then Midoriya just has to go because Eri, the name of the young lady who falls at his feet, he has to go and say that she appears to be frightened by something. And then he keeps on saying things that all make, and it just goes and says, what are you doing to this girl? Which is not very good. And yeah, OverHaul even tries to, this is the part I thought it was a little bit stupid, because OverHaul tries to lure them. I mean, he doesn't try, he lures them into the alley, and they just follow. They just follow. Like, I mean, I guess that Mirio could phase through OverHaul. Like, OverHaul's attack wouldn't connect with Mirio, granted that he had enough time to actually phase, but possibly he could. And then OverHaul just starts removing the glove, and that it's at this moment that all of them realize something, and Eri just goes back to him because she knows what would happen and she tries to avoid it. And so she just complies and goes back to him. And Midori he gets a little bit frustrated, but he will get his chance to do something back again. And then we go to OverHaul's hideout, and he just kills one of his own guys, just because he failed to keep an eye on Eri. He just goes on and just explodes the guy. Jesus. And then the last page is something quite disturbing. He calls her the key to an entire plan, and just shows an array of VATs, I guess we could call it that, and the chair that it's connected to those VATs, a bunch of computers and whatnot. And yeah, we don't really get to know what it is, because the chapter ends with a little guy coming up to OverHaul and saying he's got a phone call from Shigaraki and saying that he wants you to listen to his response. So, what do you think Shigaraki's response will be? I don't really think that Shigaraki will submit, but on the other hand, I believe we shouldn't really drag this on any longer, because I don't know, OverHaul is not a very patient man, and I think that if they go toe-to-toe, they will both suffer losses, and it won't help their cause. Not that I want their cause to be successful, but from their perspective, going on against each other, that's the reason why OverHaul retreated in the first place, because he said it himself. If we go on about, we're just going to lose more people, so you submit to me, and we're good. But, of course, Shigaraki ain't gonna do that, and this concludes chapter 129, moving forward to 130. Okay, so we start with, but I've gotta say they might be weak now, but I'd expect nothing less from the surviving Yakuza. Oh, they are speaking about the 8 precepts of death. It's got high fences and very few windows, quite a nice place they're living in. It's been a week and a half, so it's Nighteye and Bubble Girl. It's been a week and a half since we began watching them, and there's even less people going in and out than usual. Maybe because OverHaul kills them all. I don't know. So she warns him of the phone call, saying that it's Miriam that they made contact with Shisaki. Okay, so they meet up. My apologies, we screwed up. I never would have guessed that it would turn into one of those bumping into the transfer student at the intersection developments. What? Oh god. No, this was my error. If I'd been looking at the two of you before the fact, it could have been prevented. For the time being, I'm just glad you're both safe. If you'd made one wrong move and he had become suspicious of you, things could have gotten dangerous. That's true. I didn't get the sense that he was that dangerous. You didn't? Okay. The other day, a band of thieves were in the middle of making their escape, and they ended up triggering a truck accident involving many people. Those people were dragged into it were none other than Shisaki and the 8 precepts. And yet there were 0 casualties. The members of the gang of thieves, after apparently feeling an intense pain and losing consciousness, mysteriously all came out unscathed. And not only that, all their chronic illnesses, from rheumatism to cavities, were all healed without a trace. It was thought to be the result of Shisaki's quirk. And as a result, given that they were 0 wounded and the villains were all apprehended, he couldn't be charged with any crimes. Okay, why does that tire have a face? I don't remember that situation. But we clearly know that this is not OverHaul's work. So... But apparently the money that was stolen was the only thing that completely vanished. It was all burned cleanly with nothing left. The police reached the conclusion that no crime had occurred, but we at the Nighteye offices found that awfully suspicious, so we began a full-scale stakeout. I haven't the slightest idea what he's thinking, but one thing's for sure, he's the guy who gets things done when push comes to shove. That is true. He probably stole the money. I don't really remember that scene, but he probably just stole the money. So you could call it a fortunate error, but we gained some new information. Shizaki has a daughter. I also doubt she's his daughter. He just calls it that just in case to avoid suspicion, but I don't think Eri is really his daughter. So yeah, he called her Harry. Her arms and legs were all wrapped with bandages. She was extremely frightened. Yeah, she was crying for help. If only we could somehow take her into custody. Don't start getting arrogant thoughts into your head. Jesus. If you try and rush everything, you'll surely fail. If you grew impatient and chased after them, they'd only run further out of your grasp. You aren't so special that you're able to save every person who wants to be saved right then and there. First, you must predict what your opponent's goal is. And after completing a thorough analysis, you must make flawless preparations for every possible situation. You cannot possibly save everyone with will alone. This world is not so easy. I gotta say, with each chapter that goes by, I am more and more surprised that Nighteye and All Might were partners. I mean, power levels aside, they are on completely opposite specters of thinking. All Might is all for, we gotta save everyone no matter the consequences. Nighteye is a much more, put it in a better way, All Might is the emotional type guy, and Nighteye is the... Wait, did I say All Might? All Might is the emotional type guy, Nighteye is the rational type guy. So he's much more thorough, he's much more focused than All Might probably was back in his good old days. So Nighteye is a much more methodic guy, and I really like him for that. The truly intelligent villains conceal themselves in the darkness. There are cases in which you must bide your time. You do well to remember that. The two of you are to return to the office for today. Okay. Leaving an unpleasant taste in my mouth, the first day of my internship ended in a flash. Okay. The beginning of the week. Okay, so we're going back to the class. What's up with Bakugo? Have you not noticed, girl? Take a look at Todoroki. Oh yeah, they've been training for the provisional license. That's right. His pretty boy face is ruined. Looks like they've been getting a Spartan education at the provisional license training course. Must be completely physical oriented. Right. Why is Ida just he's asking for Uraraka and Tsuyu, okay? Kirishima's missing too. This guy, what's his face? The guy with the balls. Him, the little perv guy. What's up, Midoriyan turn? How was the first day at the internship? Were there any lady heroes with super erotic costumes? Why do you think that's the first question you should be asking? Anyway, he's a perv. How long are you there for? Let me join. Bakugo is so flustered. Quit talking about all the shit that's one step ahead of me. The poor guy. And he just keeps thinking on everything that's happened. The murkiness in my head kept getting worse. I was unable to focus in class. If you can't keep up, I'm pulling you out, Midoriya. I can't keep going on like this. Looking for All Might, he's out jogging. Ever since the home visits ended, he started training himself for some reason, but being retired and all, he should really just kick back and relax. What's with that pose? It's been such a long time, you know. Oh, the fourth wall. It's because she hasn't appeared in the manga in a long time. She's doing like a Miss Me Boys, Miss Me Boys pose. All Might, please tell me everything. All Might. It's good that he jogs. It's good to keep fit. Midoriya just like with full cowl activated, she just comes running out of nowhere. It reminds me of that scene from what's the movie? Captain America and the Winter Soldier, when Steve Rogers and the Falcon, when Captain America and the Falcon are running around that garden in New York, no, Washington D.C. Is it the one with the Lincoln statue? And then Falcon just goes on running, and then Captain goes like 2 full laps around him. It just reminds me of that. Oh, it's cool. Young Midoriya has arrived. Why am I here, you ask? Did you know everything all along? The fact that Nighteye knew about One for All, and that Togata-senpai was a candidate for your succession. You know all of that, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me anything? It seems there was a need to tell you after all. All of a sudden I've been bombarded with these new truths, and yet I'm forced to just be denied without knowing anything. Above all, I have no idea what your intentions are. I have no clue what your hidden intentions are, and because of that, the inside of my head's all murky. Why wouldn't you tell me something so important? I'm not saying this as your fan, I'm saying it as your successor. I want to know everything. I figured telling you the story wouldn't benefit you at all, but do you really still want to hear it? He does, and we do as well. It'll benefit me a lot more than keeping it a secret will. You better not regret it. I won't. Okay. Originally, Nighteye was a huge fan of mine, you see, and I had a rule that I wouldn't take in any sidekicks. But he was incredibly persistent, and I finally broke down and let him in. And so we were active as a team for about 5 years. His physical abilities weren't all that impressive, but he supported me as the brain of the operation. He took a supporting role as you fought on the front lines, and from what I understand, the two of you got along quite well. Indeed, but 6 years ago we dissolved our partnership due to my injuries. And because of the difference in our values. Oh, so he was the one that made push for him to retire, and All Might didn't want to. You're pushing yourself too hard, All Might, you need to retire. I still want to know what this freaking mouse is. Jesus. Haven't you been searching? He's so bent up. Everyone is searching for me, and if they're waiting for my return, I have to go. It's one thing to see him in his full form and in his weakened form, but this middle state, like this is the first time we've seen him in this middle state. Damn. If you continue on as a hero with your body in that state, it will become more painful for all the parties involved. Your respiratory system has been irreparably damaged. Things won't go smoothly for you like they did before. For the sake of the peace which you yourself desire, you should retire and let your legend live on. You're free to search our school as much as you'd like for a once-for-all successor. You've already done more than enough. You should return to your fluffy bed and get some much-needed quiet sleep. A bright, strong, and friendly person, someone just like you must find such a person and entrust your duties to them. And until I find that person who will be the symbol, even if All for One is no more, we live in a society of superhumans. It's only a matter of time before the next All for One appears. Okay, so All for One is also an heritable as in the sense is transmittable, a transmittable quirk. Okay, I thought that the guy we saw was the one and only All for One, but apparently not. I understand the logic behind the symbol of peace, and I admire it greatly, but don't you see? You can't possibly smile like this. Gran Torino is there as well, so he was injured as well. If you're planning on continuing on as a hero, I will not support you. I couldn't possibly, I don't want to. And as such, that's how they get separated. So you were looking, after all. I thought I told you that there was no need for you to look at me, Nighteye. Even if you retire, the next number one will surely appear. Stormy times may befall us for a short while, but we may still be able to ward them off. Oh. And how many people will have to live in fear during that short while? God damn it, All Might, we'll love you. And what's more, your foresight is never wrong. There's simply been no precedent for this up until now. I'll change the future myself if I have to. That much would be nothing for me. But at this rate, everything will go according to my foresight, and that is the one thing I can't allow to happen. I'm here right now because I wanted to become a man who would be of use to you. Ooh. So Nighteye was really a dutiful guy. I mean, he still is, but he was devoted to All Might in a sense. I wonder if he isn't more similar to Midoriya than he lets out to be. Not only on the aspect of liking All Might and all of that, but I believe at some point in his life, Nighteye had similar ideas to those of All Might and Midoriya. But after these events, he grew a little bit more rational. And my staying here would be of no use to the world. Damn, these quotes. If you keep going like this, you'll clash with a villain and head towards a gruesome demise, one so terrible that it can not even be put into words. He confronted me about my future, and from there we had a fight and went our separate ways. Principal Netsu recommended young Tagada to me, but I ended up meeting you before I was able to meet him. Wait, but I guess Togata is only 2 years older than Midori, so yeah, he had 3 years to kind of recover. And then Mirio got into class, 2 years have passed, Netsu recommended Togata, and then he met Midoriya. I really didn't want to say all this, since you were my fan after all. I'm so sorry. Oh, when it ends like this. with no more words, with no author's note, with no title for the next chapter, just chapter 130, end. Whew! My oh my, holy moly. Sorry about that. I am slightly parched. Whew! What a chapter. Finally, we got to know a little bit more about Nighteye and All Might's duo, and the reason why they eventually got separated. It was I like the way it happened, or the way the author put it, let's say like that. It was not good for any of the parties, but the way the writer put it. But something, I understand Nighteye's concerns, but if you really wanted, he could have stayed and helped All Might. I think All Might would benefit more from having him helping than don't. But it's as I say, I understand Nighteye's concerns for All Might's health, but still, he lasted for 6 years like that, so that was a plus. They were 5 years together, and then All Might lasted for 6 more years after those events. Who knows how long before the partnership he was on the active. So that is a story for another time, I'm sure, because I really want to know All Might's backstory, like the whole thing. His master, who was Shigaraki's grandmother? Yeah, she was Shigaraki's grandmother or mother. I forgot, actually. I actually forgot. I'll look it up and I'll let you know next week, if I don't forget to tell you that, which I probably will. But then again, my dear viewers, I hope you have enjoyed it. This video, my performance, and overhaul the chapters. Overhaul. Do tell me your opinion in the comment section down below, and a warning of public utility. The next week's chapter of Fairy Tail as released, and I have read it already, and I'm going to explain you why. The thing is, I was speaking with my girlfriend last night, and the chapter released last night, and she was like, oh, the chapter happened so fast, it was kind of boring and it didn't really make much sense. And I was getting like pumped to read it. And the chapter released in Brazilian Portuguese, not quite in English yet, I don't know. But I have read it, and I really didn't enjoy it. So next week on Monday, there won't be a live reaction of Fairy Tail. There will be a review joined up with some other things about Fairy Tail's current saga that I've been meaning to say for a very long time, but I've been delaying because the saga was looking like she was going to get straight. That was going to get straightened. Such seems not to be the case, so I will express those and some more concerns on Monday's video of Fairy Tail. So be on the lookout. Monday, Fairy Tail and the 7 Deadly Sins. We'll see. Is it really Goater before Dolor and Gloxinia? What is Rose's plan on betraying the other races and joining up with the demons? Is it just crazy? Is he being controlled? That and much more on next week here in the channel. Until then, I bid you guys a good weekend and bye bye.